Hello everyone, this is Tim, and this is going to be sort of a summary video. I was not able to take audio recordings of my Darves Hill game. I believe this was back in September, and the reason I wasn't able to take recording, of the audio is anytime you play in a public place, you're kind of at the whim of that place if things change, if there's tournaments going on that you're not taking part of, but they're in your spot, etc. And the place that I did playing was more noisy, loud, people right next to us. So I just knew it was going to be a big mess if I tried to record it. So instead of doing that, I just figured I'd just do a little summary video, and then I can post the audio recordings of the next session. So this is from all the way back in September. I'm a little bit behind the times. The characters are all at the top of Darves Hill. There was Seer, Targ, Miskillium, Metham, Thimple, and Grunka. And if you've never seen any of the, or you've never listened to any of the recordings, you're not going to know who these characters are. But this is mainly for the people that have actually watched them all. They headed back towards the town of Dom, and when they got there, there was a goblin army that had surrounded the place, had taken over the place, and had killed all of the temple priests, except for Urmasha and sort of a one-eyed ogre giant thing called Gron. And the only reason they hadn't killed Urmasha is that he wouldn't let them. And they fled into the wilderness, and they weren't able to be found. Urmasha in the past was resurrected by the group. The characters got into town, and they talked to Aldrich, and he basically told them that they own the town, they control the town. They've been killing random people, taking their things, starting to settle people into the village, but it had only just started. So Aldrich was trying to convince the characters that they should try to stop them or persuade them to leave, something. And they learned that the goblins worship the god Baner. Now the Temple of the Gods worships all the gods, or you can worship any god in that temple. But these guys were focused, and Baner is the god of shadows, the son of shadows, one of the gods of flame, and they had all painted themselves up, the characters, to look like goblins, or to at least hide the fact that they were humans. Especially the halfling Thimple. He had tried to make himself look as much like a goblin as possible. They entered the temple in the town at dawn, and they learned of another priest that they had killed previously, but they never, got his name until now. Gerthartha was a priest of Baner, and he sent a message to the goblins to occupy the town and to kill the group of adventurers that had been, being actually fairly successful. In the past, a lot of adventurers have come to the hill, and while they've done some damage, they had very short careers. The group that is now going there has had several, especially magic users, die, but they have been successful at cleaning out, the surface buildings and the first level, so he was a little concerned. So they're in this town, there's goblins, they're in the temple. They found that there were 6 goblin priests in the temple itself, sleeping. They're normally up during the day, and they had guards, but the guards themselves were preoccupied with something else was going on in the town. There was a little bit of a minor uprising, so they were left unprotected. So the group came into the temple, snuck in through one of the windows on the side, and coup de grace them all in their sleep. I believe at the very end one of them wasn't quiet, and there was a small scuffle, but it didn't last very long. Then there was a duel at the very beginning of the temple, and because they had disguised themselves as clerics, and Thimble had a sacrificial dagger of Baner, he pretended like he was one of the priests. And so you would think normally that would be enough, but in the Goblin Society, sometimes if there's disagreements, there's a duel. So one of the strongest goblin priests came out, and they fought with Thimble, and Thimble won because he has some nasty weapons that he picked up. Not only the sacrificial dagger, but he also has a dagger of like 9 lives stealing. So they got the goblins to leave, but the only reason they got the goblins to leave was to tell them that there were some elves to, I believe, the east that they were basically told that the elves are few and far between and they wouldn't be able to defend themselves. So the characters basically just started a war between the goblins and the elves in the local area. And they have no idea what the consequences of that will be, so that'll be interesting, possibly later on down the road. They slept around with some women, did some drinking. They sold some guitars they had found, some magical equipment. They found out that one of the instruments was a flute of amnesia. Although a lot of my characters, or a lot of my players, always forget the magic items they have, and they have yet to use that. And they didn't know by sending the goblins to the east, they actually sent them in the same direction that Ormasha and Gron had went, but they came around back later. They narrowly avoided getting taken in the woods. A statue of the group will be carved and set in the town center now because they are considered the sort of local heroes. If you've ever seen Firefly, like Janetown, they would look up to him. That's kind of what it is now. They're like local folk heroes. The mayor and Grunka want to start up a militia, so they started forming ranks and going over drills and setting up defenses for the town, just in case the goblins come back, if the elves don't defeat them off, or if they actually learn that Thimble was not a priest of Boehner. So with the defensive plan set, they were kind of concerned about, was this Gerthartha, this priest, the one that they had killed, or is this a priest that they have not met yet, and they're not sure. They later went back and found an ebony skull that was a chime of cannibalism. And basically what this does is, if you ring it in like a 30-foot radius, everyone has to make a save that hears it. And if they don't, they have the uncontrollable urge to just start eating flesh. It doesn't matter, what kind of flesh, what kind of humanoid. They basically turn into a raving pack of like zombie cannibals. So they had a great idea for this, that they were going to take it down to the arena where they had been previously and give this as a gift, a donation, for when they ring the bell. They'll ring the skull instead. And they're hoping that this will incite a zombie cannibalistic rage to overwhelm the crowd. And they're curious to see how that's going to work out. They haven't seen the consequences of that yet. The elf character, who was played by Fryer, was killed off. Basically because the player wasn't able to play anymore. So, I had him as an NPC for a while, and then he met his match and he died. So they got to go down to level 2 of the dungeon. They had filled the first level with blood. That's from previous. There were some strangleweeds that they found around the entranceway down, and they killed several troglodytes, lizard folk, and mushroom fungal dryad. And basically there was a combination of lizardmen and troglodytes that were worshipping this fungal dryad, and she was controlling them, and they learned eventually that she had been buying slaves to feed the troglodytes and feed the lizard folk, as well as, letting the corpses help her mushrooms grow. And she also had some as like playthings and lovers, so forth. And that was pretty much the end of that session. From here on out, hopefully, I'll be able to have the audio. I'm a little concerned about what's going to happen when my wife gives birth. I'm hoping that I can at least play, one game for 4 hours once a month, because that's how often I run this game. But, time will tell. So, thanks for watching.